We are live. I think my lighting needs some help. There we go. Welcome back. Welcome if you are new. We talk about painful things, difficult topics on this channel. And I've got one for you. It's late. I'm tired. I don't know how much energy I have for this, but it has to be said. So here I go. We must leave fossil fuels in the ground. As simple as that. We have to do this. We have to do this. If we don't do this, we're going to regret it. It's going to be painful. It's going to be humiliating, but we have to do it. If we do it, it's going to be painful and humiliating. If we don't do it, it's going to be painful and humiliating. That's what makes this a wicked problem. Any direction you jump is going to be painful and humiliating. You're going to suffer. You're going to lose. You're going to wish you hadn't done it. But it doesn't matter, because if you had done the other thing, that you also will eventually regret you had done that. If we keep burning fossil fuels, we're going to regret that we burned the fossil fuels. If we stop burning the fossil fuels, we're going to regret that we stopped burning the fossil fuels. Well, surely one of these is a better choice than the other. I don't know. I think you end up in the same place, regardless of which path you take. If you keep burning fossil fuels and you just go forward like everything is fine and business as usual, I think you end up in a particular place, and it's going to be bad. It's going to be ugly. You can't even imagine. I got a pretty good imagination, and I'm really afraid of what that place is going to look like if we don't stop burning fossil fuels. If we do stop burning fossil fuels, that's also a really bad place. It's really terrible. And, I can imagine all kinds of terrible things that would happen as soon as we stop burning fossil fuels, like within days of stopping the fossil fuel consumption, within days, certainly no more than a week. Then we end up in a terrible place, horrid, nightmarish. Is it worse than if we just continued burning fossil fuels? I don't know. I guess you won't know until you get there. And then when you get there, when you've made your choice, you won't really have two things to compare. You won't be able to say, so if we keep burning fossil fuels, there's this. Yeah, that turned out to be pretty bad. And then over here on the other side, we stopped burning fossil fuels. Wow, that was pretty scary. That was, now I get to weigh them. No, that's not how this works. You don't get to run forward in some sort of timeline and then back up and then run forward in a different timeline as if this was, mathematical modeling. You don't get that you don't get that choice. You can't do that. You're at a fork in the road. You're going this way for 300-400 years, and now you got a fork in the road. And do you stop burning the fossil fuels, which worked out pretty good for a couple hundred years? It's not looking so good now, but so you could stop burning the fossil fuels, or do you just continue burning the fossil fuels and kind of see what happens, right? Well, you're going to end up in a bad place either way. And I can't tell you in advance which is worse. The only things I can tell you about one path or the other, if you keep burning fossil fuels, then you're going to continue to increase the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere, which enhances the greenhouse effect, which warms the planet and heats the planet. It's called global heating, which will in turn, once the planet has heated up, it will in turn change your climate, which is called climate change. And, that has all kinds of deleterious effects. The heating by itself is also really damaging. I was just listening to, in fact, the reason I'm sitting here, I was just listening to an oceanographer working out of Spain or possibly Portugal, talking about the heat wave, the oceanic heat wave that's happening in the North Atlantic right now. and he lives in a coastal village, and he's the biologist for the coastal village. And I could tell that he was probably a biologist hired by the government to study these economically important um, creatures that live in the sea. And this is really common. A lot of biologists get their position with the government. So of course the government sends them out to work on economic concerns. Are the salmon doing okay? Are the mussels doing okay? The mackerels, the trout. They have to figure out where these animals are, measure the animals, and then from that information, the government will maybe determine um, how much of the animal can be taken. Right? They'll issue permits, or they'll change the harvesting season, make it bigger or make it smaller, and then all starts with what a biologist says. So a lot of these biologists that live in these coastal communities, they're not there to do just basic research. They're really there for a purpose, which is to help the government understand these economically important sea creatures. So if they can determine how many people, how hard the harvest can be, when should the harvest season start, when should it end, how big can the organisms be before they can be taken, and so forth. Because there have been some really horrific outcomes in the past before science got involved of people just destroying fisheries, just eating everything, eating it all. And that's happened many times, many, many, many times. The humans have just gone out and their technology keeps getting better, better and better, and they just eat everything. So, so this guy was talking, and he was being interviewed by Nick Breeze, who he's a journalist, an author. He writes books. I don't know if he's a scientist. I rather doubt it. He might be, but I doubt it. And he asked this guy, so this is towards the end, right? This is the money shot, right? So what do you think we should do? And you could kind of tell that the guy, he's a younger guy, he's 35, maybe 40, I doubt it. And he has children's drawings up on his cork board, pinned to his cork board, and they're little kid drawings. So he's got probably 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds. Maybe they've grown up a little more, but he's got kids, young kids. And he's maybe 40. So he probably not even that, 30. And so he says, "Oh, what I want to see happen, I want to see a revolution. We need a revolution." And I'm like, "Why?" That's what I'm thinking to myself. That wasn't the answer I was expecting. I knew what answer I wasn't going to get. I'll get to that in a moment. But I wasn't expecting revolution. And then I realized, okay, hold on. You know, uh, Iberian Peninsula, whether they're Portuguese or Spanish or they're French or Italian or Greek, these Mediterranean peoples, they solve their problems with revolutions, right? They replace one ism with another ism. They replace communism with fascism, and fascism with socialism, and socialism with capitalism, and they just try different things. Well, the lesson should be that your revolution doesn't change anything, because what you do is you just knock out one bunch of feckless, corrupt leaders, and you replace them with another generation of leaders who become equally feckless and equally corrupt. And what you did is you didn't change anything. You just had a revolution. So what's the advantage of having a revolution if you're in the middle of climate change or some other kind of problem, economic disparities, or just pick your ism, whatever your problem space is? What do you get when you have a revolution? Well, you feel good about yourself. We hanged some people, we threw some people off a bridge, whatever, and you feel great about yourself, and you go back to doing whatever it was you were doing before. Well, the problem with that today is that we have to stop doing everything that we've done before. We just have to stop. Now, if you don't want to stop, if you want to be on this, if you come to the fork of the road, and it goes this way, and the fork you want is the one that is business as usual, right? You get to burn fossil fuels, you get to travel, you get to go on trips, to do your field work. The government pays you a salary. You go out on the boat every day. You look at the economically important fish. If that's what you want, well, then have a revolution. Because when you get new people at the top, they'll still write you a check to go out and look at the fish because they're economically important. So just have a revolution. Don't worry about it. Just have a revolution, and after the revolution, after the revolt is done, and you've got new leaders, and maybe they're communists, or maybe they're socialists, or maybe they're fascists, or maybe they're capitalists, but it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you know what they're going to do. They're going to recognize that they have to keep business as usual surging forward, and they're going to continue write you your check so you can go out on your boat and look at the economically important fish, because that's still a thing that has to be done. So have a revolution, nothing will change. We'll cut a bunch of people's heads off and we'll put a whole new bunch of people in place, and they won't change anything. And therefore you can just do what you want to do. And you had a great revolution, and you set fire to some buildings, and you set fire to some tires and intersections, and you turned over a police car, and you did a bunch of other stuff, and you had a great revolution, and nothing changed. And that's kind of what you wanted. So that's how you have business as usual. If you just want business as usual and you want to get your check, so you can go out and look at the economically important species for the fishery, and you just have a revolution. Have a revolution. You'll be fine. The politicians won't be happy, but who cares? Fuck them. Who cares, right? So people talk like this about global heating. You hear this all the time. We need our typical excuses. I call them excuses. We need politicians to wake up. Wake up to what? And do what? We need corporations to stand tall for their behaviors. What behavior? What did they do to you? And if you're talking about the oil majors, didn't they give you gasoline and diesel? Is that the sin? Oh, but they got subsidies. Yeah, but that just lowers the price of your gasoline, right? So, problem space. What's the problem space here? And we need teachers and educators and artists, and to engage in conversations about what we're supposed to do about global heating. What do you want them to say? You want to say something? What is it? Help them out. Help me out. You want teachers to say something and educate the next generation, and you want the scientists to publish papers and do investigations and call for what? For more funding? Of course they're going to do that. But what do you want them to say? Yeah, you want changes. You want changes in the government, changes in the corporations, and changes in academia, and changes in the scientific community, and you want all these changes. Yeah, you want a revolution. So what do you expect them to do? What are they going to do differently? Can't you be specific? So you want the politicians to do something, but what do you want them to do? Like climate action or something? What the fuck is that? Climate action? You don't even know what that is. You have no idea what that is. You can't even tell me what that is. Climate action. What? Bullet points. Give me bullet points. Some things I can do. Okay, verbs. What can I do that constitutes climate action? Can I stop doing something? Can I do something different? Can I do a new thing? Can I do something more? Do something less? Come on, let's have some bullet points. Climate action. What are they? You got any? You got one? Anything at all? So I see. I see where this is going. So the politicians need to engage in climate action, which you don't even know what that is. All right. So they can kind of make it up, right? They can make it up. You want climate action? All right. Let's sit down and talk about that. Climate action. Let's have a revolution. Let's have some climate action here. We'll think about this. We'll be fair and equitable, and we will float all the boats. We'll make sure everyone is in the tent. We'll make sure everyone is at the table. We want to hear all modalities. We want to hear all stories. And then we're going to take climate action. After we've heard everyone and we've looked at everything and we've gotten everybody under the tent and nobody's been excluded and nobody's been exploited, okay, then we'll take climate action, and we'll know what that means. And it could take decades. It could be generational change, okay? Because before we can take climate action and be fair about it, we have to, get rid of bigotry, right? We have to get rid of injustice. We have to do all these other things. It's just societal change. It's generational. It's going to take hundreds of years. We still haven't solved the problem with, underrepresentation in government and institutions for people of color, right? Well, let's solve that problem first. Let's solve that problem, and then those people will be at the table, and we'll hear their stories, and then we'll do some climate action like 40, 50, 100 years from now, after we've solved all the other problems. You see? That's how that shit works. You call for something that no one's going to disagree with. No one knows what it means. And you can wrap it up, put a bow on it, and now you've done something. You just walk away. Walk away. Yeah, climate action is really important. What's climate action? You tell me. You tell me. I'm saying we need climate action, but I'm listening. I am listening, and I am going to listen to everybody. I'm going to listen to every human on the planet. It's going to take me my entire life. It's going to take several of my lives, and I'm going to listen to everybody on the planet. And then we'll figure out what climate action even means for all these diverse voices. So that's where it's going to be. That's how people want to play this. And the guy who studies the economically important fish in Spain, he's worried that the fish supply will collapse. And of course it is. The fishermen are no longer bringing in catches on their ships. What they're doing is they're going to other fish markets in other countries, and they're buying their products and bringing them into this region and saying, see, I'm still a fisherman. We still have our seafood grotto, our seafood restaurants. We still have our tourism. And it doesn't matter that everything we're serving came from what? Korea, right? The Philippines, Indonesia. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. We are still a fish market. And all our fish just came in fresh from the cargo ship from the Philippines, right? Because their economically important fish are dying. Some combination of, global heating, hot water, global heating, and hot water. And the organisms just can't survive. Their habitat has been destroyed by global heating and the water being hot. So those organisms die or they leave because it's too hot. So what are you going to do about that? You're going to have a revolution? Oh, wait, that's going to cool the water? Gee, I never thought of that. You know why I didn't think of that? I just realized why I didn't think of that. Because that's fucking stupid. No, that's not a revolution. Cutting someone's head off, putting someone else in their place, that's not going to cool the water. It's just not. And so I was listening to these two gentlemen talking. I'm like, they're not going to say it, are they? They're not going to say it. Now he's talking about revolutions. He's talking around this. The water is too hot. The habitat is lost. The species are leaving. They're dying. They can't survive here anymore. He's not going to say it, is he? He's not going to say the thing. And he didn't say that it was because of global heating. Because he works for the government. And he can't say things like that. And when Nick Breeze asked, so what do you think we should do? The guy, he just said we should have a revolution because that's all he can talk about. You can talk about having a revolution, but you can't talk about not burning fossil fuels. You see? You can't talk about not burning fossil fuels. We're on this path and we come to the fork in the road and we can either, stop burning fossil fuels and go down that pathway and deal with whatever that stirs up, or we can continue to burn fossil fuels and just what the earth becomes too hot to be inhabited. All the fish die everywhere. You can't even bring fish in from Indonesia anymore because they've lost their fish supply. And now your village in Spain doesn't have tourists anymore because it's too hot and there's no fish and there's no fishermen and there's no tourist destinations and no one wants to do tourism anymore because everywhere you go is too hot. And we went down that path, right? You just went down that path. And every year it got hotter and every year we burned more fossil fuels and every year there was more CO2 in the atmosphere and more enhancements to the greenhouse effect. And it kept getting hotter. And every year was a record heat. Every year was hotter than the year before. And every year down this path, every year got worse. And you just kept going. And you had how many revolutions? 2, 3 a year? Every other year, you hang somebody from a lamp pole, or you cut their head off, and you put new people in the government, and then we just go forward, burning those fossil fuels, and what? Hoping for the best, hoping for a miracle. What are you talking about? Well, we'll take climate action. Say what? What? Who? What is that? What are you talking about? Well, action against climate change. Yeah, name one. And the first thing that comes to your mind, and the first thing you name, and maybe just to stop there, is leave fossil fuels in the ground. You could just say that and just stop right there. What's climate action? We're going to leave fossil fuels in the ground. Okay, right. Now we have a plan. Now we have a workable plan because we can actually do that. And that would actually make a difference. That really would. But we can't do that because that's going to upset the economy and the jobs and the tourism, and we're dependent on people flying and driving and moving goods, and the fish from Indonesia, and we serve them in our restaurants and pretend that they came from our bay, and you know we still have the ships, and the ships sitting at the docks are beautiful, and it doesn't matter that they haven't gone out for 10 years. We put a new coat of paint on them every year, and they look so cute sitting at the quay. And of course, we never go out. They don't even, the motors don't even run anymore. They're just there for looks, right? Because it's a fishing village, and our fish come from fucking Indonesia. But we're still a fishing village. Don't let anyone tell you we're not a fishing village. And we're just going to go down that road. We're just going to keep burning fossil fuels, and we're just going to keep, you know, snuggling up to the Chamber of Commerce, and the tourists are gonna come, and the boats will be painted every year, and they'll be so cute, and they'll be sitting there at the wharf, and we'll pretend to be fishermen, and hell, we'll even have an old fisherman sitting on a rocker out in front of the hotel or in front of the restaurant. He was sitting there smoking his pipe, and he'll have his fisherman's cap on and his rubber galoshes. Hell, he hasn't been on a fishing boat for 20 years, but the tourists don't know that. They don't know that, and they'll wanna do selfies with the old fisherman, and, they don't know he hasn't been on a boat for 20 years. It works. There are the boats, there's the old captain, and we got seafood in here, and you set yourself down, we'll serve you all these mussels, and we'll never reveal that they came from Indonesia because we fucked up. We just really screwed the pooch, and now we can't fish off of our own waters. So you want some climate action? How about we start with leave fossil fuels in the ground? Oh, but that would be so painful. Oh my God, I can't even imagine. Yeah, I know. And if this guy, this, you know, ocean biologist said that his idea for a solution was have a revolution. After that came out, Nick Breeze was like, yeah, we should have a revolution. It's like, what? What just happened? So you guys, two smart guys, completely dropped the ball. And now we're going to have a revolution. We're going to cut someone's head off. We're going to put someone else up on the throne, and I guess we're just hoping that that solves the problem. The problem is global heating, and the problem with global heating is there's enhancements to the greenhouse effect. There's too much CO2 in the atmosphere. I wonder where the CO2 is coming from. Let's see. Oh, could it be burning fossil fuels? Yeah, it might. Yeah, sure. That's probably what it is, right? That's what the science says. So, what's the solution to releasing excess CO2 into the atmosphere? It's enhancing the greenhouse effect and causing global warming. What's the solution? Stop burning the fossil fuels. But we can't do that. So let's just not talk about it. Now, I don't know. Here's the problem for me. Are these people deliberately making a decision? In fact, here's the scenario, right? They say, "All right, we're going to have this interview. You're a marine biologist, and you're worried about the economically important species that the fishermen used to bring in, and they serve them at the restaurants, and people eat them, and the tourists and the local people. Okay, we're going to talk about that. But at some point, I'm going to ask you what you think is the solution to the changes that are taking place in your fishery, and I don't want you to mention the consumption of fossil fuels. Just to stay away from that. Let's talk about something else. Oh, I could say something else besides that. I mean, obviously that's the problem, but I could say something else. Let's brainstorm. What could we talk about? And just avoid the topic of fossil fuel consumption. Let's just avoid that somehow. Well, in this part of the world, we have lots of revolutions. Why don't we just bring that up? People will laugh. They'll say, "Ha ha, those dumb bastards. They're going to have another revolution. They're going to cut people's heads off, and put new people in place. And that's what they do. Oh, they're so feckless. They're so gormless. And that's fine. We'll just watch them have another revolution. And that's no threat to me because it's not going to require me to stop burning fossil fuels. Yeah, yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with that. The people will find it amusing, and it's so Spanish, so fascist. Let's just we'll leave the interview with, well, they'll have a revolution. We'll have some climate action, and that won't scare the horses because revolutions, of course, don't go anywhere. Revolutions never changed a thing, except that somebody got their head cut off, and of course that's a change for them. But in terms of political systems and economic systems and how people live their lives, never changed a thing. Not once, not ever. Not ever, not once. Once your revolution happens and people kind of grow up and then they get the reins of power, then what they want to do is they want to make the fucking money. Yeah, I am at the top now. What did the last guy do when he was at the top? He made money. He was corrupt as a motherfucker, and he just took everything. He got everything, and he killed his political foes, and he killed their families, and he took over, and he had the military on his side, and he had everything. And that's what I'm going to do. I just had a revolution. Now I got to be the stud monkey at the county fair. I'm just going to have the military going to work with me now, and I'm going to kill my political enemies, and I'm going to, you know, drag their families over broken glass. Because now I'm at the top. Yeah. Let's see what else we can fuck up. Yeah, that's revolutions. So of course everybody wants a revolution. Everybody wants climate action, and everybody wants to blame the politicians. Politicians are sacks of shit. We all know that, and they like being sacks of shit. They like being blamed for everything because they're running hazard for their political friends and at the corporations. Because their real job of a politician is to run hazard for the corporations. The corporations are, just raping and pillaging, right? They're destroying the planet. They're destroying people's lives. They're destroying the political process. They're destroying democracy. They just throw money everywhere and buy whatever shit they want. And then they get tax breaks and they make even more money. They know they can spend money, give money away. Right here where I live, you could give $200 cash to any of these politicians and they'll do whatever you want. Give them $200. Buy them dinner. Just buy them dinner, and they'll do whatever you want. Fuck. Bunch of whores. That's what they are. And we all know that. We expect them to be whores and prostitutes. We expect it. It's like, if you're not acting like a whore and a prostitute, then you don't understand politics, right? Why did I elect you? You don't seem to understand politics because you're not a whore and a prostitute. You're not taking the money and taking instructions and jumping, like doing doggy tricks for your master. You're not the right politician for the job. We need different politicians. We need politicians who know the value of money. Okay. And do you expect the corporations to do things differently? Well, of course not. They're lying, greedy sons of bitches, right? And they're going to exploit nature and people for profit every single time. Every time. Every time. Every time. Not just in the beginning, not just at the end, not just on weekdays. Every time, all the time, anytime, forever. That's corporations. And we all know that. Everybody knows that. And they're going to lie and they're going to cheat and they're going to buy politicians and they're going to kill people if they don't want their story leaking out or whatever, right? We know corporations. Come on. You know all about corporations. And so you're what? We're going to have climate action. We're going to change politics. We're going to switch it up. We're going to flip the script on corporations. Corporations we're going to make them divest, and we're going to make them, adopt green energy and electric vehicles and corporations. Yeah, we can figure those guys out. But we still want economic growth, and we still want jobs. We still want to increase jobs. We want good paying jobs. We want a good minimum wage. We want all these things, and we want more representation in jobs, and more women, and more people of color, and more justice, and less debt. And we're going to forgive student debt because that's going to college is to get a job. So why burden them with debt? We'll just relieve their student debt and they can go get a job, right? So jobs and growth and all this kind of stuff, and that's corporations. And so, but we can green them, right? We can hold them accountable. whatever that means, and then we can do some climate action on those sons of bitches. We'll just climate action those guys. Get ready for some climate action. Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates. You ready for some climate action? Man, I got climate actions for you. They're stacked up over out here. We got climate actions all the way to the curb and around the block and around the back. Climate actions for you. Whatever those are. But the thing people are never going to do, they're not going to do this. Nick Breeze didn't do it. The oceanographer didn't do it. I keep watching these videos. I keep listening. I keep reading these articles. I keep looking at the news. They don't do it. They just don't do it. They don't say, how about we try something different? How about we just leave fossil fuels in the ground? What about that? Well, that would certainly reduce CO2 emissions, right? Might even reduce them to zero. But if not zero, then what? Maybe 95% less? Wow, that would be pretty cool. And that would reduce our impacts on the atmospheric greenhouse effect. That's cool because that would in turn reduce global heating. So that sounds pretty cool. Oh, but you see, there's always a problem, right? Because this is a wicked problem, and wicked problems have no solutions. So uh, that particular climate action, leaving fossil fuels in the ground, that just blew up your global economy. Shucks. Darn. Who ordered that? Who ordered up the end of global industrialized civilization? Who ordered that one? Because we decided to stop burning fossil fuels. Well, that sucks. Pretty hard. So they don't want to talk about it. And I wonder, and I guess this was the point I was trying to make before I got distracted. I wonder if anybody knows that they're not talking about that. I don't think they do. I don't think they do. I don't think they know that they're not considering that as an option. I don't think anybody says, oh, yeah, I wake up in the morning, I'm just not going to talk about fossil fuels at all. They just spend their whole day not talking about fossil fuels. They spend the entire interview not talking about fossil fuels. When someone says, what do you think is the solution to climate change? The solution is climate action. The solution is political change. The solution is removing corporate subsidies. The solution is justice and economic fairness and floating all the boats and more jobs. That's the solution. So the solution isn't just to leave fossil fuels in the ground. I mean, that's the physics of the problem. Well, no, we can't do that. No, where'd that thought come from? Leaving fossil fuels in the ground. Wait, can we even do that? Is that even possible? Where do fossil fuels come from? I don't even know. The ground, you say? Oh, man, that's weird. We can't leave fossil fuels in the ground. We can't. We need more fossil fuels. I mean, that's really the solution to global heating is more growth and more progress and more innovation. And we need fossil fuels for growth and innovation, right? We need smart people. We need the best minds, the best educated people. We need to throw money at them and progress at them. We need to throw fossil fuels at them, and then they can figure this problem out for us and take some climate action while they're at it, right? They're gonna fill that out. They're gonna say climate action. That's a big bucket. Let's just put all kinds of ideas in that climate action bucket. And wait, that's your idea to leave fossil fuels in the ground? Yeah, that's not going to work. But we want to hear all the other ideas, but not that one, because that's bullshit. Because we can't leave fossil fuels on the ground. That would be unfair. So let's not have that conversation, because it seems like that's what's happening. No one ever mentions, oh, we'll just leave fossil fuels in the ground. We just won't burn fossil fuels. We'll just leave them alone. We'll just walk away from them. We'll shut down the wellheads. We'll shut down the processing plants. We'll shut down the refineries. We'll park the oil tankers in the harbors, or we'll sink them, or what. We don't need them anymore, right? And the coal and the natural gas, wherever it comes from, it stays there. Just don't go there. No, okay, but that would cause a lot of pain and suffering. Well, so is burning fossil fuels. Yeah, but if we burn fossil fuels, then we can still have economic growth and jobs and shit like that. And that's kind of important, right? I don't know. Maybe it's important not to make the planet uninhabitable for human beings. Maybe that's cool. Maybe that's a thought. Because what's going to happen if you don't stop burning fossil fuels? If you don't stop burning fossil fuels, then people are going to find that the place where they were born and raised and where they did their fishing and their harvesting of plants and whatever else, crops, they can't live there anymore. It's too hot. It's too windy. It's too much on fire. It's flooding. It's whatever the problem is, and they're going to leave. And you're going to have millions, if not billions, of people on the move, and they're not going to be happy, and they're going to want services, and they're going to want change and revolutions, and they're going to talk about nothing less than just nothing but change, nothing but revolutions. Meanwhile, all you're trying to do is your business as usual, and and bring in your fish from Indonesia so the tourists can have a authentic, fishing village experience. And and you don't want to deal with refugees. You send these people home. No, they can't go home because they can't live there. Half their population is already dead, and this is the half that survived by leaving. And so, what are you going to do with these people? What are they going to do with you? And you didn't stop burning fossil fuels, and their story, their narrative went in the shitter, and they had to leave. And now your village is impacted, and your life has been kind of sucky for 20, 30, 40 years anyway, because the fishery died because of the heat, and now you have to leave. And it's just this wave of misery. One group of people displacing another, and those group of people now joining the wave of refugees, and they just move a little further along because you didn't stop burning fossil fuels. So what do you want? Do you want the pain and suffering of that? Of destroying all the human habitat and rendering the world uninhabitable? Or do you want the pain and suffering that comes from just stop burning fossil fuels and deal with the fallout? Because you could do that. And if you planned to leave fossil fuels in the ground, you could even plan how you're going to cope with it. There's a thought. I don't know. I guess, what's your situation? How are you going to cope? Well, if you're a fishing village in Spain and the fishery has been impacted by global heating and the oceanic heat waves, and you stop burning fossil fuels, well, then you're not going to be bringing in replacement seafood from Indonesia and the Philippines, are you? No, you're not. So now you've killed global heating has killed your local fishery. You're not importing fish and seafood products from other countries to fake your way into being a tourist attraction. And so now you're done. You lost one battle, then you lost the other battle, and now you have no story. You have no narrative. You just don't have a purpose anymore. And the reason we're not talking about leaving fossil fuels in the ground is because there are lots of people with a vested interest in selling fossil fuels. So they won't let us have that conversation. So we don't. And therefore we won't. And we never will. And I'll keep watching these videos and watching these interviews, and I'll keep thinking to myself, I wonder if they're going to say the thing. They're painting this pretty dire picture. Fires and sandstorms and, pollution. Nobody can breathe from the fires. Yeah, that's pretty bad. So are they going to get to the what are we going to do part? And they either just completely don't do it. They just, well, there's the smoke, there's the fire, there's the desert, there's the last tree in the Amazon, and there's the last polar bear, and there's the last penguin. And wow, thanks for watching. What was that all about? Is there a takeaway? Is there a call for action here? What am I supposed to do with all that information? Be amused? That kind of sucked. And I'm supposed to be amused? Or I can just be terrified, right? But it's okay. It's all the same to you because you're not asking me to do anything, and I don't want to do anything. And of course, the last thing you'll ask me to do, and the last thing I want to hear is leave fossil fuels in the ground. So we don't have that conversation, and nobody will, ever will. No, I'll have that conversation all the time. Leave it in the ground. You got to leave it in the ground, people. You're just going to have to leave it in the ground. But I don't want to. But you have to. But it's going to hurt. But you have to. Well, but the economy is going to collapse. But you have to anyway. But what about the people in Africa? And what about the people in India? And there's billions of people who just want a chance to be rich and have a Starbucks to drive to and in their Tesla. Everybody just wants a chance. Yeah, but you have to leave the fossil fuels in the ground. They're not going to get a Tesla. And if you're Elon Musk and you own Tesla, then that sounds like really bad to you. That the people in Africa won't become so middle class and more that they can buy more Teslas and make his stock go up, right? So, let's not talk about leaving fossil fuels in the ground. Let's make sure all those people in Africa have fairness, equity, and other stuff, and then they can go into debt and buy a Tesla, and Elon Musk gets to sell another Tesla or a robot or a Starlink system or a latte at Starbucks, whatever. Progress, baby, right? So let's not talk about leaving fossil fuels in the ground. That's the only thing you can do, by the way. You just leave fossil fuels in the ground. That doesn't solve your problem. Your problem probably continues and maybe probably gets worse. And you're going to want to burn those fossil fuels, but you can't. You have to leave them in the ground. That's it. But we're not doing that. We burn more fossil fuels every year than the year before. We emit more CO2 into the atmosphere than we did in previous years. The rate of CO2 release into the atmosphere is increasing. It's accelerating. And, we install more solar panels and we install wind farms and we do all these other kinds of things. But that just gives us green electricity. But that's not what raises the crops and delivers them to the stores. And that's not what runs the stores and runs the 18-wheelers and delivers everything and processes the food and processes the chicken and processes the dairy, and all that stuff's done with fossil fuels. Yeah, and so you can green your energy, and that means your lighting will be green, and maybe your refrigeration will be green or whatever that means. But the food comes from 800 miles away. I mean, there's no way to green that. Hell, we get food from Central and South America brought to America on cargo aircraft, bananas and things like that. They put them on aircraft. There's no narrative about electrifying aircraft. Nothing. There's nothing. So if we ever give up fossil fuels, which of course we must, hell or high water, it's going to have to happen. Well, then you won't have an aircraft, cargo aircraft industry. You won't be sending food halfway around the planet, bananas and grapes and wine and whatever else. It just won't happen. But you have to do that anyway. You're just going to have to do that. But they won't talk about it. And I guess, and I don't know that anybody deliberately wakes up in the morning and says, yeah, fossil fuel consumption. God damn, we have to do something about that. But I'm not going to think about that today. I don't think anybody wakes up thinking that. I don't think anybody goes into an interview and says before the interview, let's not talk about giving up fossil fuels. Okay, let's just strategically leave that out. Okay, fine. We'll talk about something else. Let's talk about revolution and cutting people's heads off. Yeah, great. That sounds better. No one has that conversation. And yet we just don't talk about leaving fossil fuels in the ground. The subject never comes up. It just never comes up. And it never will. We are blind to this. I'm convinced we can't see it. We don't know what's happening to us. Now, is it because it's complicated technologically? Yeah, it might be. It might be. There's a lot of people who think the earth is flat. There's a lot of people who don't understand that the atmosphere is made up of components like oxygen and nitrogen and carbon dioxide and water vapor. They just don't know it's invisible. How could it be made of anything? Air is just invisible. The only time I know it's there is when the wind's blowing, right? It's not a thing. Air is not real. Air doesn't exist. And it's certainly not made out. This certainly doesn't contain carbon dioxide. Whatever the fuck that is, carbon dioxide. You're using big words. Are you trying to make me sound stupid? You're trying to make me feel bad about myself because I don't know what carbon dioxide is. Carbon dioxide. What the hell is carbon? What the hell is oxide? What are you talking about? Oh, it's in the air. Yeah, I breathe the air. If I don't breathe the air, I asphyxiate. Yeah, tell me something I didn't already know. Okay? Just don't get it. So they can't participate in this this discussion. And if they can't participate in the discussion, then you can't tell them, yeah, the atmosphere is warming, the heat is transferring to all the other spheres of the planet Earth, hydrosphere and the cryosphere and all the others. And it's because we're enhancing the greenhouse effect, and we're enhancing the greenhouse effect by adding carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. And the carbon dioxide imbalance leads to more heat trapping in the atmosphere, and that disturbs everything else. And the carbon dioxide, in turn, comes from our fossil fuel consumption, and we're consuming fossil fuels to get the energy out of the fuel, because we need energy to do all the fucking things. And those are all the things you want to do, right? The driving and the flying and the moving goods and going to the store, pulling things off the shelf and getting that rare bottle of wine from France for, practically cheap. And these are the things you want to do. And doing these things, you create a CO2 imbalance in the atmosphere. And the atmosphere heats up as a result, because that's global heating. That's the greenhouse effect. And when you enhance the greenhouse effect, you create global heating. And when you create global heating, you just fucked up. Yeah, you're fucking up. You don't want to run that experiment, but you're going to do it. And when you're interviewed by someone that says, well, what do you think we should do about global heating and climate change? You'll say, oh, we need climate action. We need better politicians. We need to go after corporations and hold them accountable. Rawr. I'm taking a stand. Yeah. Yeah. Are you going to stop burning fossil fuels? That's crazy talk. Well, now I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I thought you were sane. Now I understand you're completely insane asking me a question like that. Am I going to stop burning fossil fuels? Yeah, fuck you. You stop burning fossil fuels. How about you stop burning fossil fuels? Let's see how far you get in the world. Me, I'm burning fossil fuels. In fact, I think they should be cheaper, so that I can keep more of my money that I'm making by burning fossil fuels. That's what I think. And anyone proposing that we stop burning fossil fuels is a heretic and a communist, and they hate people. If you're saying we have to stop burning fossil fuels, you hate people. Why are you such a misanthrope? Why do you hate? When did you start hating people? Do you hate your children? Do you hate your spouse? Do you hate your friends and your family? Because if you stop burning fossil fuels, they're going to hate you. So we can't have that conversation, and we never will. We never will. I'm convinced of it. I've been watching these people talk around and around and around, and climate action and political change and corporate, change, and stop the subsidies, and talking around it, talking around it, talking around it. But stop burning fossil fuels? See, that's crazy talk. And we can't have that conversation. So we won't, because we don't want to. Nobody wants to. Now what? Now what the fuck? I don't even know. I can't. I don't even know.